welcome back to another episode of Weekly Tangents. How's your new year going, Jonathan?
It's a new year. It's a new me. So this Jonathan has no recollection of anything beyond, before this day. So it's been going pretty well.
Oh, it's a completely blank slate, you. Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's
completely blank slate. I do a new wipe every year. Sorry, what is
interesting.
weekly tangents? I completely forgot.
Oh, don't worry, you have 26 episodes that you can catch up on.
Okay, thank you. All top quality, I'm sure.
Yes. So, a lot of people for New Year's do New Year's resolutions, and I
Hmm.
thought, fuck that, that's basic and probably boring to talk about.
Yes.
So, what's the opposite of a resolution? Well, I looked up on Google and it's irresolution, which just sounds like a dumb word, so I chose not to go with that.
Yeah, irregardless of everything, that would have been a terrible idea.
Yeah, nice irregardless throw in there. But yeah, so I thought of like, okay, well, if resolutions are about making your life and yourself better, I thought let's go over some times that we fucked up. And I was wondering, I know with you've had some alcohol situations, just life situations. I
Oh
mean, you're
my.
kind of a mistake of a person. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to talk about here.
Yeah. Well, okay, so just like mistakes we've made.
Yeah, I'd go more in like the funny mistakes. It
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah.
to be like I killed my mom and dad in a car accident. I mean, if you want to go that route, that's fine. But yeah, so I mean, I thought I'd start it off with one that you may or may not remember. But
Mhm.
the first time I got drunk.
Oh, I don't remember this one off the top of my head, so please do tell.
All right, so you know me, I'm picky eater and a picky drinker. So I've never really been like, oh man, I gotta have some alcohol in me. I was never too excited. So the first time that I actually had it was during college. I had made some friends who I went to a Korean language exchange with, and they occasionally had house parties and everything. So I went over to one of them, and it was like for Halloween or something, and everybody there was like ranging 23 to 30, so they had experience with drinking, especially Korea, if in case you didn't know, is the number one place in the world for alcohol consumption per capita. So
Mhm.
they definitely had their experience. So I came in and I didn't want to be the guy who's just sitting in the corner drinking water the entire time, because this was like a drinking party, not just like a do whatever you want in your own group kind of party.
Right.
So they introduced me to games like King's Cup and stereotypical things like beer pong and stuff like that.
Those
And
are all solid games, though.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And I sucked at each and every one of them.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
And they did not go light on those. Like, the punishment for a lot of the games is, there's a cup in the middle where the loser has to chug the entire thing, which will be filled with like mixed drinks and stuff. And obviously, if it lands in a cup with like a little bit of beer, you have to chug it before you throw the ball and stuff like that. So everybody's drinking, but especially if you're the loser, you have to drink a shit ton.
Oh, and okay, so just clarifying, this stuff you were drinking wasn't even just like, it wasn't beer, it wasn't soju, it was like straight up like liquor, right?
It was like soju mixed with beer mixed with vodka. Like that's what I remember it being.
Oh, what
Which
an interesting flavor
I
profile.
I mean, I hate all of it anyway, so man, oh. So I decided to just chug all of it. Well, not decide to. I'd lose, so I have to do that. And then it's like, man, that really sucks. But hey, I don't feel too terrible or anything, so I guess we're fine, because I don't know what my limit is because I've never had any alcohol before. So then we go over to the next game, which, some kind of card game where once again there's a cup in the middle, and whoever loses has to drink the entire fucking thing.
Oh
And lo and behold,
god.
despite it being a game of pure luck, not even skill, I lose and have to chug the entire fucking thing. So, not really a great time for me. And I even remember there was a girl that I was kind of interested in at the party. And I was like, okay, at this point, I can tell I'm very drunk. I don't want to like do anything stupid that I regret, because I don't know. Some people, when they're drunk, they're like way over the top. Some people are like, I guess, violent drunk. So I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know what kind of drunk I am. So
time to
the
find
entire
out.
time, I'm just like texting myself in my phone of like, Dylan, you talked to this person, you said this, they said this, so far so good. So I'm just like leaving my little notes to myself, that way the next day I can find out if I fucked up or not. And all in all, like, the conversations went well, everything went well, but I did feel like, I don't feel particularly good. Let's get up and walk to the bathroom. And then, like, as I'm walking to the bathroom, I just go like, this doesn't feel like a normal burp. This feels like a, and I put my hand over my mouth and just spew vomit everywhere.
Oh.
And that was kind of everyone's realization of like, hey, I think it's time for the party to end. So they let me sleep there, and I could not fall asleep because my head was spinning so much. So I just walked around in circles for about 2 hours until I was sober enough that I didn't feel like throwing up every second that I laid down. But
Yeah,
yeah.
well, you see, the funny thing is I'm sure you're trying to walk in a straight line, but you were so dizzy, it was just going in circles.
Oh, sure. I mean, whatever adds to the comedy of it for you.
But nah, that's terrible. You really learned how much alcohol you could take that night for your
I
first try, at
did.
least.
Well, I mean, it was also a good amount of alcohol. At least it wasn't like one beer and I'm out. It's just like, half a gallon of vodka. So
Jesus Christ, that sounds so awful. I've never, like, actually puked on myself or anything, like, in public as a result of drinking, or really even after. Like, the only time I ever puked from drinking was for my 22nd birthday, because COVID was my 21st. So my 22nd birthday, I went to hang out with my brother, and he wanted to see how much alcohol I could drink in the shortest amount of time possible. So in like 30 minutes, I remember I had 3 tall beers and 3 mixed drinks. I think that's what I had in, like, 30 minutes, and
okay.
I was like, "Oh, man, I gotta use the restroom." So I go to the restroom, make it to the sink, and I just fucking unload, but at least I made it. Like, I've never had, like, serious hangovers or anything like that. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing for me is I drink a lot of water. It's the only drink that I tend to drink anyway. So when I'm drinking alcohol, especially because I don't like the taste, I just chug water. So I don't have a hangover, but I swear to God, I probably go to the bathroom about 12 times before I'm
Oh,
done.
no. You and me fucking both. Because if it's not water for me, I'm usually I guess probably ironically doing, like, really sugary drinks like Gatorade or lemonade or soda, so mixing my downers and uppers there, but all jokes
Okay.
aside, no, I do the same thing, and then people are like, "Bruh, didn't you just go to the restroom?" Like, "Yeah, and I'm going again in 5 minutes from now too."
Yeah, something that I will say that I'm glad about, that I think we've both talked about before, but we're not necessarily bad when we get drunk. Like, I figured out in that experience, like, other than throwing up, my personality was just so paranoid that I would do something bad that I just texted myself what happened the entire night. Uh,
That's fair. That way you kept yourself accountable and, like, on track.
yeah, unlike, didn't you have a certain
No, 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 no,
situation?
no, no, we're not going
Okay.
into that. We're not talking about that on the
Okay,
podcast.
okay.
But all jokes aside, what I do typically do is, I'll try to remember where I went, why I went there. Like, I'll just make a mental note, like, why am I here? Okay, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's good. As long as there's a justifiable cause, I'm happy. If there's no justifiable cause, I'm like, wait, hold on a second, something went wrong.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But yeah, did you have any specific thoughts that came to your mind that kind of had a similar vibe to my experience?
I actually do. I was going to talk about it with you in pre-podcast talk, but then I went to close my parents' door and you forgot. So this was good that you didn't let me do it. Otherwise, I would have told the story and immediately told it 10 minutes later.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, perfectly intentional on your part. So I went to a concert for one of my favorite. Yeah, I'm not sure they were one of my favorites anymore, but they used to be one of my favorite bands, Pierce the Veil. And my coworker and I, we took some edibles beforehand. Now I've taken it only twice before, and I've only taken halves. So really, all I've ever noticed, it makes me giggly, but that's about it. No other real like symptoms or anything as a result of that.
Okay.
So we decided, let's take a hole each, right? Because we had exactly 2 left. And oh my god, that hit a lot harder. Like, okay, so standing in line, there was a point where, like, if I was standing, I was cool. If I had to walk a single step, I had to hold on to his arm to not fall over.
Hmm.
And, like, I became acutely aware of, like, the feeling in my mouth. Like, I thought every time I was, like, swallowing, I thought it was, like, puke, but I knew it was just saliva. It was just, like, it's what it
Oof.
felt like. And, like, oh my god, it was awful because we got into the place, right? And at that point, I'd used the restroom. So, I kind of left him in the crowd to go to the restroom. And there was the ladies' room and the men's room right beside each other. Perhaps predictably, the ladies' room had a long, long line, like wrapping through the hallway, and the guys' room was completely empty, right? So
Okay.
I'm like, okay, cool. So I just walk into the men's room, and a woman comes out, and I'm like, holy shit, I walked into the wrong bathroom. So I go like fast walking out. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I thought it was the men's room. And like I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I'm not trying to get like an assault charge or like everything or harassment or whatever when I'm like out of my mind, can't really like properly explain myself. And I was like, maybe I was just hallucinating. So I quickly get out of there.
Hallucinating the woman?
No, hallucinating the sign, like just
Okay.
misunderstanding or something. So like I get out, but then I look at the sign. I'm like, no, that definitely says men. So I look around and like I'm like, did I do something wrong? Or and then the women in the line for the women's room are like, no, you're good. Like that's the men's room. Just go on in, right? So I'm like, okay, my heart's pounding, but I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just go in and use the restroom. So I go back in to use the restroom, and as I'm walking, another woman comes out and she like looks freaked out. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Right. So at that point, I'm just noping out because I'm like, I am not trying to be like a horrible person traumatizing people here. Instead, I'm the one fucking traumatized. So
Well, they were
I
just on twice as many edibles as you were.
well, I just didn't understand. I'm like, why are you guys looking at me so like freaked out if you're in the men's room? Like I should be the one freaked out, and I am freaked out. So at that point, I just walked out, and girls were like, no, go in there. And I'm like, no, I'm not chancing this. So I just fucking walked back to the concert. And I was like, okay. I came back, and my coworker was like, wow, that was fast. Like no one got behind me. And I'm like, I I don't want to talk about it. And he like looked kind of concerned, but he was also pretty high, so he wasn't like gonna press it. So it was just kind of funny. So I held it for the entirety of the show until we got back home, like in like at that point, like 4 hours later. It was pretty terrible. But actually I'm gonna keep on going with the story because it keeps going.
Oh,
Because
okay.
like I wasn't used to the bodily sensations that come with being high, because again, this was the most I'd ever taken, and it was only my third time ever in my whole life, so I didn't have like any sort of tolerance, right?
Mhm.
So, along with the sensation in my mouth, I started to get like a sensation in my pants, very warm and wet. And I'm like, holy shit, did I like lose bladder control like as a result of being high? And like I was paranoid. So I reached my hand down to just like the front of my pants. I'm like, no, I'm dry. I'm like, am I sweating that much? And
Ooh.
obviously, I wasn't going to reach down my pants to find that one out. But like every few minutes, it got warmer and warmer until my legs were on fire. So I kept reaching down, like, no, I'm dry. I'm not like pissing myself. And like, it was just so much anxiety. And it didn't wear off until like after the second opening act, which was like 2.5, 3 hours later at that point.
Oh my
So like,
god.
oh my God, it was an experience to say the least.
All right. So is this your come to Jesus moment of you'll never do edibles again?
No, not at all. No, just probably I won't ever do a whole one again because that was honestly not a great experience to say the least. But I'll stick with halves. That's fine. It just makes me giggly. I don't have any issues with that.
I think the moral of the story is next time you take a whole one, you just need a diaper.
Oh, that probably would have resolved a lot of my anxiety. But no, I was relatively happy that I kept it together. I was just traumatized from the whole restroom thing.
Yeah, that is understandable.
So yeah, that's my story. There's other stuff that happened there, but I'll pass off the mic a little bit if you had another story off the top
Well,
of
I
my
do,
head.
but first, just I have to ask, it is tradition. Knowing the kind of music that Pierce the Veil makes,
Yeah.
did you go with a chain wallet?
No, I wore the chain around my neck because I've graduated a former and recovered emo.
Oh, okay. But you had a wallet around the chain on your neck.
Yeah, and people kept taking it. It was really bothersome.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
can't find any of my cards. I had to freeze my whole accounts. It's awful.
Another story that I have, which this one you may or may not have been a part of. I honestly don't remember at this point.
Oh
But
no.
I like junior or senior year of high school. I think it probably was junior year for like the end of the year before summer started or right as summer began. I was like, "Hey, it's been a while since I've had like a little get together at my house. My birthday's like the right after Christmas, so I never have birthday parties. So like, I'll ask my mom if I can just have like a bunch of friends over and hang out. Some of them stay the night, some of them go home. Whatever they want. And we had a pool at my backyard, so it was just like a nice time. We played games, we did different things. Honestly, I don't remember anything that happened there, and it's not like there was any drinking or drugs like your horrible situations. I just honestly have a terrible memory, but what I do remember is that one of our friends there, Melanie, she obviously wasn't going to stay the night. 27 men and one woman,
Yeah.
so she wanted to go back to her place at like midnight or something. So we all jumped into my car because I was one of the only people who had a driver's
All
license at that point.
27? Is it like a clown car?
It was a clown car. I can confirm that. And I got in my grandmother's car because she was still alive at the time, so it was not mine yet.
Uh-huh.
But I use that car quite often, and I think I just started blasting BTS, just playing some K-pop music at ridiculously loud things just to annoy other people because they all thought
Mhm.
it was the worst and cringy. And look where I am now, haha. But yeah, so I back up as I am just blasting this and banging my head, and I may or may not just ram into the trash cans that are on the street. And they were pretty full, and I think that like my brother's car was like kind of giving them extra weight or something, so I kind of had a bowling ball sized dent in the back of the car.
Oh my
So
god.
we take her home. It's only like a 2-minute drive, then go back around, and I come out of the car and look and I'm like, oh fuck. Like this is my grandmother's car. I don't think that the worst case scenario is going to be too bad. But also, this is like, you don't want to get caught for it because it just feels like the stereotype type of high schoolers have a big party and then some shit gets broken.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So everyone went to bed, and I stay up till like 5 a.m. looking up like how to undent a car and stuff. And one of the ways was like boil water, and it will like make it puff out because of the heat and
What?
everything, and throw it on it. So I shit you not, I for like 2 hours was just boiling water, throwing it on the back of the car, boiling water, throwing it on the back of the car.
That's
Just
not the assumption I would have assumed, but did it work?
it well, the thing is it went from like a bowling ball size dent to like a flip phone size dent. So it improved a lot, and nobody noticed it for a while. But then, like a week or two later, my grandmother finally noticed. Of just like, oh, how did this happen? And I was just like, I don't know. Maybe when you noticed it just today. Maybe when you were at the mall earlier. Someone like sideswiped you or something. Just like, oh wow, that's just blah blah blah. And I'm over there like, I got away scot free. So she's dead, so I got away with that. So I guess, Mom, I'll apologize to you, but we got away. It was like 6 years ago, so it's all good now.
Dang, that's like getting away with murder right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to that comment from her. But not like that is honestly so anxiety inducing. You're just like, I gotta cover this up, otherwise I will bring shame upon my family.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I guess, when it's your thing and it's your money, it makes more sense. But also, I don't give a shit about cars, and my grandmother's car wasn't particularly good anyway. So, like, when that later became my car after she passed, if someone, like, dented my car, I honestly wouldn't give too much of a shit. But,
Yeah.
clearly you're just horrified of what your parents are going to think and do. So, I just spent those 2 hours in the middle of the night just boiling water.
What was everyone else's reaction when that happened? We're like, "Oh shit, ha ha ha," or like what?
Yeah, all 26 of us that were left in the clown car. That's pretty much what it was.
Dang, that's unfortunate, but at least I don't know. At least you got a good story out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, who needs New Year's resolutions? The more fucked up things get, the more podcast content we have.
Yeah, so really, we just need to keep ruining our lives in order to get these funny stories.
Exactly.
All right. Well, moving on from that, as far as other mistakes, I don't really make many mistakes in life. But all jokes aside, I'll go into another one in the concert. It's not so much a mistake as much as who knows, maybe a missed opportunity, and then just something me and my coworker. It's been an inside joke since then. So at this same concert, we were trying to vibe, stand side by side, just enjoy it. But there was
As
this
you're busy pissing your pants.
yeah, as I'm pissing my pants, I'm trying to get him to piss his to make me feel better.
Mhm.
And what ends up happening is, there's a pretty attractive woman in front of us, and she gets very into every single act, and I mean she's dancing, jumping, and everything, right?
Mhm.
But notably, she keeps so she's in front of me at this point, and she keeps jumping back into me, like into and onto me. And thankfully, she's kind of small, so it wasn't like hurting me or anything.
Okay.
But I'm just like, wow, buddy, you are kind of right, like up on me. So I'm going to take a step back. So I take a step back and she keeps going, right? And I'm just like, okay, I will take a step forward. Maybe that'll get you to go forward. But no, she keeps going back into me. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is not part of the plan. And I was like trying to figure out, I'm like, is this a thing or are you just really into the music? Right? So she was doing that for basically the entirety of the two opening acts to me, right? So that's like 2 hours, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I've got enough other sensations I'm trying to worry about, like not pissing myself. Like this is not ideal, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'm gonna skip any and other feelings about that matter. And what happened was eventually, like, a circle pit opened, which moshing, whatever you want to call it, and we got shuffled around a bit. And so she ended up in front of my coworker, and she was doing the exact same thing, and he kind of realized pretty quickly, right?
Mhm.
So him and I were like trading glances, and we don't want to like, because it's really loud in there. We don't want to yell, "Hey, what do we do?" or everything, right? But like it started to get more and more like awkwardly explicit a little bit, and that she would try to record the concert, so she would have her arms up high over everyone with her phone. That's pretty normal. But then she'd be literally laying her entire body back into my coworker and like, I don't know the right word, I guess gyrating her body while doing it. And
Interesting.
yeah, we're just like, ma'am, are you trying to record a video or something else? Like, we were confused. And my coworker apparently later on, because I was thinking the same thing, he was like, should I put my arms around her to like hold her while she's doing that? Or like, we were so confused and we're like, is this actually someone trying to come on to us in the middle of a concert? Like both of us? Like what is going on? So then at the end of the concert ends, like she turns around and me and him are like, okay, moment of truth. Does anything happen here? And she just walks past us and leaves. And we're like, okay, wow. Should we have said something? Was that just a concert experience and we don't address it? We don't talk about it. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas kind of deal. So for the rest of the night, him and I were like, okay, but was that something or not? So our big mistake is we're not going to have any closure on that, but we're assuming it was just concert vibes and she was just getting really excitable. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that story.
Did you feel betrayed when she went from backwards humping on you to your not roommate, coworker?
I'm not even gonna lie, a little bit, yeah. I was like, bruh, this was our experience.
Yeah, that is fair.
And then what was actually kind of funny was throughout the concert, she would be like moving throughout the crowd because it's a well, I guess post-hardcore concert would be most accurate. So people are moving around, and he'd be following her because he didn't want that to end. I'm like, I see what you're doing there, and he gave me a little smirk, and I'm just like, I'm gonna kick your butt later.
I respect that.
So it was a funny experience. He said that he much preferred this concert over many others because he liked the crowd's energy, and I think
One
I knew
person
what
in
he meant.
particular. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my little story there.
All right. All right. One of my favorite stories, which I had forgotten for a long time, but I just remembered sometime recently, is you remember I was in tech theater for 3 years.
Yes.
And tech theater is just like we didn't have a wood shop at our school, so it was the closest thing to just like building shit like you would in a wood shop. You just build the stages for whatever play is upcoming, and whenever there's not a play upcoming, you just learn how to build other shit or work with the lights. So I was in that for 3 years in a row. So I was pretty high up in the chain of command. In Mr. Finch was the teacher's name. In his just like ranks of students there. Whenever he had people had people like do certain things, lead a group or whatever, I was always like one of the two or three students that was one of the leaders in the group. And he and I had gotten pretty close because I had known him for 4 years because I took drama the first year and then tech theater the next 3 years, and he was the teacher for all of those. So we would talk sometimes. He'd high five us. He'd do whatever. And I remember I was like in the back behind the stage and everything, talking to some other people, and we were just playing some like dumb. I think we were playing like hyper patty cake or some shit like that, just being dumbasses. But he was cool with
Uh,
it,
was it
and
Slide or was it Hyper Patty Cake to be real?
who
Because I
knows?
okay,
Hyper slide patty cake, whatever the case.
okay, sure.
and uh and I win whatever this weird game that we created is. And I'm celebrating a bit, and Mr. Finch comes up to me and he sticks out his hand, or his fist out, and I'm just like, he's giving me a fist bump. He's giving me respect for doing that. So I like wind my hand back and I give him a nice solid fist bump. And then I noticed that nails and bolts and things of the sort go flying over everywhere. And Mr. Finch, eyes follow all of the nails and bolts and then slowly turns back to me with just like a horrified, betrayed look on his face. Like, why the fuck would you do that? And I was just
Did
like,
you
oh,
apologize?
oh yeah, I was just like broken up with speech. I thought we were game, and I thought you were Knuckles. So I'll pick it
Right.
up. And he's just
You
like,
were me on edible, but you were sober.
exactly. So it was just like, I mean, he was fine with it. Obviously, everything was okay. But it was just such a misread of the situation. And his face just really made it like, oh, God, I'm a fucking idiot.
That's fair. That's fair. That's just like it's such a simple, innocent thing from your perspective, but from his perspective, it's like the sheer malice. This student I like came up and smacked these things out of my hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So did you at least help him pick it up or
Well,
no?
I was the one who picked it up by myself, but it was a situation. I'll tell
Oh,
you
so
that.
he didn't even do it. He was just like, "You picked that up, Dylan."
Yeah,
Dang, you got your comeuppance immediately.
I did.
Dang, that's fair. That's fair. Um, let me think. I
I have a
have a
couple small ones if you don't have anything.
no. I have a small one right here. This one was me again, immediately having to make up for my transgressions, I guess.
Okay, okay.
So for this one, we will dub this the Jonathan Chicken Sandwich Nightmare.
Okay.
Okay. So as you know, I was in wrestling in high school, and wrestlers have to maintain
We
a
were in wrestling in high school.
yes, we were in wrestling in high school, and we had to maintain a very strict weight in order to stay in our weight classes, right? And throughout the entirety of the entire season, I stayed within a 2 pound range without even trying. It didn't matter how much I ate, how much they worked us to the bone, how much I was sweating. I stayed in that no matter what, and no matter how hard I tried to get out of it.
Well, I
So
will
then
also say, haven't you been within like a 6 pound weight range for the past 9 years at this point?
more or less, yeah. I've been at my exact same weight I am now for like the past 2 or 3 years, like within 1 pound the entire time.
Exactly.
But point being, actually, that's the same weight I was in high school. Yeah. And so moving on. So it was after one particularly grueling practice right before the day of a tournament, which are early Saturday mornings. You have to leave at like 5 in the morning to get there on time. So the night before, I was ready to munch. I was hungry. So my parents go to Wendy's and I say, "Hey, I want 6 spicy chicken sandwiches, a chocolate shake, a soda, and 2 fries." So
Oh,
like
okay.
not
I
exaggerating. It
respect
was
that.
like it was an absurd amount of food and I had confidence that I've been eating meals that huge throughout the entire semester. It wasn't fast food typically, but like I was eating an absurd amount of food that semester because of how much I was exercising.
Yeah.
So I ate it and I felt really good. Took a hot shower afterwards. It was just, I was finally feeling fulfilled in life. So I wake up, get there, and I weighed over 2 pounds what the top of my weight range was for the weight class, right?
Hmm.
And so let me remind you that I said I woke up at 5 and had to get to school like 5:30ish or whatever. So the tournament started at 10 a.m. So excluding the drive time to get to the tournament, which might have been an hour, hour and a half, I spent the rest of the time running my ass off to sweat off 2 pounds. And I kept going and going and wanted to puke so bad because I was running more or less like 4 hours or something like that. And by the time that the tournament started, I weighed exactly down to like the point, like point one, exactly what I needed to weigh to be in the tournament. So I made it in, and I was so thoroughly exhausted from running, I didn't win a single match that day.
Yeah, that does not surprise me at all. Like, if I were you,
Like
I would have just like taken something to speed up the bowels and just shit myself for the next
during
4
the
hours.
match.
Well, for the next 4 hours, and then maybe that's even your advantage at the end of it. It's like they don't want to touch you because you smell so disgusting.
Imagine, you know how you like mount people when they're on the mat?
Oh God,
Imagine me on the bottom and you just see that stain and he's like, bruh, I don't want to get on this guy.
yes, you're unmountable.
That would be my secret technique.
All
But
right.
yeah, it was just such a terrible experience. I That was also the last tournament I ever did for wrestling. Like big surprise, surprise. That wasn't very good for my stomach. It was just like it was a it was a terrible experience, and I never want to relive that.
Yeah, that is fair. Then
Uh,
I will tell you of my own sports injury, not really sports and not my injury, but so I and you and people we do stupid things sometimes. Like you and I have made many just dumb games out of boredom at my house.
dumb
Yes, and
boredom
yeah, especially boredom. Um,
games.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. So, when I was like in late elementary school or early middle school, I had a friend who, like with you, I did other just dumb things, just making up shit with. And he had a birthday party, and he had an older brother that I got along with really well. So, his brother and I had a game where we had like one of those foam balls that you would use for like dodgeball during high school or whatever. And it kind of like a pass the balloon game where you can't let it touch the floor. We were doing the same thing, but with our hands it would be too easy. That's just catch. So it
Right.
was only allowed using headbutts. Um
Oh
and
no.
yeah, yeah. And it was where it wasn't exactly this person's turn then this person's turn, where you're allowed to hit as many times as you need to like rebalance the ball to hit it towards them, just as long as it doesn't touch the floor, and then when it's in their territory they go for it. Well, he did one hit where it was like very in the middle, so it was kind of hard to tell whose ball it was supposed to be. So I see that it's coming down, like go into a full squat position and then lunge upwards towards the ball, and he thinks, oh well, I hit this, I can like get another thing to give it some more power to go on his side. So he like brings his head up and heads butts it downwards, and the ball kind of flips out of the middle, and it's just my head ramming into his nose at Mach 5. So
Oh, wait, did you break his nose?
I broke his nose. I
Jeez.
broke his nose during his brother's birthday party, and one of the best parts, just because it felt so fucking petty, like he was fine with it, but his parents were hyper conservative, and they knew my mom was pretty damn liberal, even though me and this guy hung out a lot. And there was nothing wrong with that, but they had the typical mindset of like, oh, butterfly liberals, and that stuff. So I had like the smallest scratch on my forehead from where I broke his nose. So he is just like, his nose is like a faucet, like just bleeding, just in a huge stream coming out of his nose. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. How do I help? This. And they're just like, don't worry about him, but you got a scratch on your head. Your mom's going to be so worried about you in this very demeaning way of just like, okay, I can understand if you disagree with my mom politically, but like, do you really have to like, oh no, just fuck you guys. Like, your son's nose is broken. Focus on that.
Yeah, I don't know what is up with them. That is such a weird, like, thing to take that stance on. Like, your son just broke his nose. Maybe try to be a little that's not the time.
Yeah, so then he just snapped his nose back into place
Oh
and,
god.
put a paper towel on it. And the next day, it was sore, but it was all good. So he's just like, hey, I think my nose is even straighter than before. Thanks for breaking my nose, guy.
I love how he tried to spin that into a positive, and then probably what's actually gonna happen is, like, 10 years later, he's gonna be like, "A nose doesn't look quite right."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what doctors do though, right? Put it back in place, like, what else can they do?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the only difference is they'll give you some nice medicine.
Yeah, he just had to raw dog the pain.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, That's a horrifying story, but I'm glad you made it through that. Not scratch free, but pretty close.
Haha.
I got another one for you.
All right, you go that, then I got one more, and I think we can finish it up.
I'm gonna title this one "Jonathan Sleeps with His Cousin."
I'm not sure if that needed a title, but okay.
No, 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 it needed it. So for this story, I was in late middle school. I want to say 8th grade seems about right. And I went to a family like house party kind of thing. It was themed to be like a 1920s kind of thing. So, I got my lovely attire and I went.
Yes.
And as far as I knew, it was a family function. And everyone there certainly looked to be of the family, like not to stereotype, but it was part of the family that I'm not close to, but they all appeared to, be of the same background. So I ran with it. Got to know everyone. It was super nice. But at some point throughout the night, one of the girls there was like getting extremely flirty with me. I'm saying like arms around me, sitting next to me, like head like in my shoulder, neck area and everything.
Hmm.
And like I was so uncomfortable because I thought this girl was related to me. Like I'm like, we are at a family function, ma'am. Like this is not okay. I am not down for incest.
Not yet,
So like
anyway.
yeah, I was trying to, like, scoot away, and, like, I was, like, looking at the cousin who invited me, like, I was pleading with him with my eyes. I'm like, "Help," right? Because like, I don't know how to reject a family member that I literally just met, like, that is awkward, and he was looking at me like, "What's your problem, man?" And I'm like, I don't know," and later on throughout the night, like, I get away from her for a little bit, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Bro, are you gay?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And he's like, "That girl's all over you and you're like trying to push her away." I'm like, "Yeah, she's my cousin." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "She's my cousin, right? Like this is a family function event." And he's like, "Family and family friends, Jonathan." And I was like, "So we're not related?" And he's like, "Yes, you are not related." So coming in with all the confidence in the world, I went back there, tried to pick up where we left off, and unfortunately, at that point, she was feeling pretty rejected, so nothing happened.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess my big mess up there was I was not willing to make romantic moves with who I thought was my cousin, so I didn't get Jonathan's first girlfriend that day.
That was, yeah, that's on you. You always got to go for the cousins, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take it where you can get it,
Oh my
right?
god.
Roll Tide, Alabama, all that stuff.
Yeah. But no, that's pretty good. I enjoy just thinking of you in that moment as this person's making a move on you, and you're just like, just why the fuck is my cousin so horny for me right now?
Yeah, I was genuinely horrified. I'm like, this is not okay. Like, why is no one stepping in? There are many adults here.
Yeah, but all right, I like it. I like it, and then I think I'll finish it off with this. I think we're getting close to time, which is I know that I've told you this before, which was the first time I went to Korea, Jonathan.
Mhm.
First time I went to Korea, my flight landed at about 11 p.m. And I'm not sure if you know this, but the Korean transit system generally closes like not too much after midnight. And once by the time that I got my bag and everything, it was coming up on 11:30.
Mhm.
And I once again, if you didn't know, you don't have data when you're in Korea. If you're on Verizon, AT&T, Korea does not use those networks.
Right.
So you have no mobile data. If you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you're kind of fucked unless you like buy a SIM card, and all of the stores were closed because it was 11:30. But I managed to get a train ticket to take me on the public subway to get to where I needed to go, which was like an hour and a half away by train. So I get on, and then 30 minutes later, the subways are closed. So I have to get off midway, and I don't have any like my Korean skills are pretty much non-existent. I try getting into a taxi and I say, "Can you take me here?" And then he looks at the destination, and I'm not sure if he actually was like done with the night or if he was just like, "I don't want to fucking do this." But I was like, "Can you take me here?" And he's like, "Oh no, my family I go back to," and then just like kicks me out of the taxi and drives away. So I didn't want to take my shot at another taxi at this
Yeah.
point after I've been disgraced. So I'm like, okay, Well, I can see where the subway is. So I guess let's just keep walking in that direction for like another 15 kilometers. So I just walk with my heavy ass suitcase and backpack another like 15 kilometers throughout the night to eventually get to my destination where I reach there. And also, I kind of just to save an extra buck because I was so broke, despite the hostel that I was going to only being like $10 a night. Uh,
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'm coming late enough. I probably don't need to get it for that night. I'll just like stay in the lobby or something like that. I go in and they're like, yeah, we don't have your room for you yet when it's like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So you can just like, leave your bag here and come back in like 6 hours. So I
Oh,
just went to a public park and I was just a homeless person in Korea for basically the 12 hours that I got there. I was just sleeping on a bench.
that is honestly such a terrible way to start your trip, because especially how much you would have been looking forward to it, and that's like getting disillusioned right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the taxi driver, at least on the upside, he gave me something to do because I still wouldn't have had a room there. So I would have just had to like sleep on a park bench for even longer. So it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out, and then after that, you really did stay at hostels for, like, a little bit, right?
Yeah, I stayed at hostels, and I was also so broke when I went there. I think I had like $400 to my name, despite staying for like a week. That my diet consisted of there's like 50-cent Korean spicy like packaged hot dogs that you can just peel and eat. So I was just eating like five of those a day, and I can guarantee you my sodium levels were through the roof.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm genuinely surprised you went back a second time after that.
Well, a lot of things were good. It was more just me fucking up, and that one very mean taxi driver.
Oh, man, we gotta find that taxi driver and take him out.
Yeah, take him out to some Korean sausages.
I don't know in which way you mean that. And on that note, we'll end this.
All right. Well, happy New Year. Here's to having some more regrets that will turn into funny stories.
Yes, yes. Have a good one, everyone. Toot toot for newts.
Ta ta for now.